"I'll take it from here, babe," he said, like he was handing me a scented candle, and not the final paperwork on a $4.2 million contract. I'd spent 4 months dragging across the finish line with nothing but caffeine, charm, and the slow decay of my lumbar spine. That's the exact moment I should have known. The way he hovered his hand over the signature line like he was blessing it. Way his voice got that smug aftershave rasp it always did when he was about to steal something shiny and pretend it was his. But I was tired. Tired enough to think maybe, just maybe, this was how trust worked. I'd been at Nextwell Solutions for 11 damn years. Survived 3 reorgs, 4 CEOs, and more tech bros with founder in their email signature than I could count. I knew how to sell ice to penguins and convince them it came with complimentary Wi-Fi. And this deal, it was my masterpiece. I landed it while juggling Q4 reporting, onboarding 2 interns who thought Slack emojis were project updates, and a relationship that had the emotional depth of a YouTube unboxing video. But hey, speaking of YouTube, if you're one of the 97% of folks listening to these stories without hitting that subscribe button, maybe toss us one? It helps keep the lights on, the coffee strong, the petty revenge flowing like boxed wine at a divorced aunt's birthday party. Seriously, one click and your family now. Anyway, back to me, back to the office, back to the high-rise pressure cooker where I used to believe hard work still had a seat at the table, before it got replaced by golf buddies and whatever man-child could talk over a woman in a conference room without blinking. That Friday, the deal closed. I triple-checked the CRM. Final quote, accepted. Contract signed. The thank you email from the client, addressed to me, not him, was pinned like a trophy in my inbox. And then came the Slack ping. "Hey Lauren, looping you out of the final wrap-up. Exec team just wants one voice. From him, my manager, my boyfriend, my handler apparently. I should have flipped my desk. Should have at least replied with one voice, huh? Let me guess, baritone lies in C minor. But I just stared at the screen and thought, maybe this is how he protects me from the boys' club upstairs. Maybe he's doing what he always says he does, shielding me from the politics. Monday morning came with stale donuts, a perky new intern named Eliza, and a company-wide email titled Biggest Win of the Quarter, a team triumph. My name was not mentioned. There was a stock photo of my boyfriend shaking hands with the client's CFO. A bullet point summary of the project. Quotes from the sales VP. The junior who made 3 calls and mispronounced the client's name the entire time, and him. Nothing from me, not a sentence, not a thank you, not even a damn typo that might have hinted I'd ever existed. But I still didn't lose it, not then. I just smiled, forwarded the email to myself with the subject line, "Remember this shit," and walked into our Monday pipeline meeting like everything was fine. Because I still believed there was some line, some code of decency even in a Shark Tank like this. By Wednesday, he was suggesting we slow things down and focus on our careers. By Friday, he broke up with me, in public, at the bar where we'd had our first date during happy hour in front of half the damn sales team. He ordered 2 whiskeys, one for him, one for the breakup, and didn't even offer to pay my tab, the tab that included his favorite overpriced sliders. I went home, poured 3 fingers of bourbon, and stared at my commission dashboard. The deal wasn't showing up under my name. Just team allocation special tier, and my cut? About 12% of what it should have been. That's when the nausea kicked in, not from the whiskey, from the math. From the realization that I'd just been ghosted, professionally mugged, and emotionally dumpstered, all in the same week. And the bastard smiled through it like he was doing me a favor. The official revenue board went live on Thursday. Big PowerPoint, CEO voice cracking with fake excitement, jazzed up numbers dancing across the screen like a used car ad. My deal was the headliner. Largest single client acquisition in 18 months, the slide boasted, like the fonts themselves were high-fiving each other. They listed the team contributors. Marketing got a shout-out. Product dev. Even the CRM admin who once accidentally deleted half my notes. But when it got to sales? Lead sales, Thomas Keller, my boyfriend, no Lauren, no co-lead, no asterisk. Just his name bolded and kissed by corporate Helvetica. At first, I thought maybe it was a formatting error. I even laughed. They must have uploaded the wrong deck, I muttered, watching it flash across the Zoom screen while my heart hiccuped like it had swallowed a nail. I texted him. Me, hey. Presentation didn't list me, weird, right? Him, yeah, noticed that too, I'll fix it. Just a misfire, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. That phrase stuck in my throat like a fingernail. I'd heard it before from him, when the bonus structure changed for budget reasons. When he forgot our anniversary because Q3 was chaos. When I caught him FaceTiming his ex-roommate in the middle of the night and he said it was just her asking about dog food. Still, I waited. Gave him the benefit of the doubt because apparently 11 years of professional instincts mean jack when you've got a history of excusing mediocre men with good cologne. By Monday, no correction had been made. No email update, nothing in Slack. I got a gift basket from the client, a tiny thank you with my name handwritten on the card, but the official acknowledgement? Corporate silence. I walked into his office. Hey, still nothing on that update, I said, trying to keep my tone level. Should I reach out to Nina in comms, or he didn't even look up from his laptop? Babe, let it go. It's all politics. You know how it works. I do know how it works. Which is why it doesn't make sense that my name's not on the deal. He leaned back, exhaled like I'd asked him to perform surgery. You're overthinking. It's already logged. Internally, everyone knows it was your deal. Then why not say that publicly? Because sometimes the execs just want one name on the dock. I asked them to list me. It's cleaner that way. It's not personal, right? It wasn't personal when they accidentally removed me from the weekly sales sync invite either, or when my commission stub arrived, thousands short, marked as Tier 2 allocation, which I had never agreed to. That's when I took it to HR. An email first, polite and measured like we're taught to be. Hi Danielle, I'm seeking clarification on the commission structure for Q1's West Grove account. The amount appears significantly lower than projected. Can we review the documentation? Her reply, Hi Lauren, thanks for reaching out. Just a reminder, commission allocations are discretionary and subject to adjustment based on team strategy and leadership review. Let us know if you have further concerns. An exclamation point, like she was offering me spa tips and not casually explaining how the company just picked my pocket while I was still smiling for client photos. I scheduled a meeting. Showed up with printouts, pipeline screenshots, email threads with the client that started before anyone else was even looped in. Danielle smiled like a wax statue, nodded, and repeated herself. Commission allocations are discretionary, Lauren. I understand this feels frustrating. Feels? I asked. Yes, she said. We're always evolving our structure to reward team performance. That's convenient, considering the team didn't close the damn deal. There was a pause. A flicker of something in her eyes, guilt, or just indigestion from her protein smoothie. She leaned in and said, maybe we should focus on moving forward. I left the meeting with my folder clutched so tight the corners bent. Back at my desk, I opened my laptop, stared at the dashboard, the numbers. Names, his name, and mine nowhere. I told myself I'd wait. Maybe someone upstairs would realize the error. Maybe HR would loop back. Maybe Thomas would make it right. But the truth was sinking in, slow and thick like syrup. They were never going to fix it. And the little voice in my gut, the one that knew spreadsheets better than trust, whispered, this wasn't a mistake. This was a plan. He dumped me between mozzarella sticks and my second gin and tonic. Not in private. Not like someone who once said he loved how I snort when I laugh or how I organize client folders by mood. No, Thomas did it standing under the exposed brick archway of Bennigan's, one hand in his blazer pocket like he was delivering a TED talk on why integrity is optional. We should take a step back, he said, casually, like he was recommending a different parking space. You've seemed tense. I think we both need room to refocus on the business. I blinked. You're ending things now? He sipped his beer. Let's not make this a scene. Oh, he didn't want a scene. The man who waited until Friday happy hour, the one where all of sales gathered for cheap drinks and bragging rights, chose to gut me in front of coworkers like it was a goddamn performance review. Half the team pretended to scroll their phones. The other half watched with the gleeful tension of kids at a school fight. Let's be mature about this, okay? He added, already scanning for way out. I smiled. The kind of smile that scares children and weak men. Don't worry, I'll be professional, I said. You'll barely know I exist. He nodded, relieved. Fool. I downed the rest of my drink, left a 20 on the table and walked out, heels clicking like gunshots, past our team, past my humiliation, past the sweetly confused hostess who chirped, have a great weekend. But the real betrayal landed Monday. I opened my commission statement, and my chest caved in like I'd been hit by a steel briefcase full of lies. The payout was less than a quarter of what I'd calculated, not even enough to cover the student loan chunk I'd promised to knock down after this deal. I triple-checked the numbers, then quadruple-checked. Then rage Googled accounting fraud prison sentence while chewing a pen cap into oblivion. And then the final gut punch. Email blast went out titled Q1 Sales Leaders, shout out time. Guess who was on it? Thomas. 3 junior reps who hadn't even pitched a client this quarter. And one guy who spent most of January in Aruba with his side hustle crypto startup. Me? Nothing. No mention. Not even a CC. I marched into the break room, needing air, caffeine, something to keep me from throwing a desk lamp. That's when Logan, a newer guy from the West team, sidled up next to the coffee machine like he wasn't about to drop a tactical nuke on my day. Hey, just wanted to say sorry about all that. All what? He fidgeted. You know, not making the top performers list. Everyone knows you crushed Westgrove. I gave him a tight nod. Appreciate it. He lowered his voice. Heard something, though, from Darren in finance. Something about redistributing deal bonuses this quarter. Executive strategy or some crap like that. Redistributing? Yeah, said leadership wanted to highlight emerging talent, whatever that means. You didn't hear it from me. I wanted to laugh. Emerging talent like Thomas's new pet intern who barely knew how to attach PDFs. The same one who called me ma'am last week and once asked if CRMs came in dark mode. I walked back to my desk in a fog. Every step felt heavier than the last. Like each corner of the office was carved with some private joke I wasn't allowed to get. They weren't just ignoring me, they'd cut me out of the narrative entirely. Quietly, surgically, I pulled up the CRM system, searched the West Grove account. Access restricted. That's when my hands stopped shaking. That's when nausea gave way to something sharper. They were cleaning up the crime scene while I was still bleeding on the floor. I showed up to HR with a folder thick enough to paddle a canoe. Emails, Slack threads, calendar invites, call transcripts, anything that even sniffed like proof the West Grove deal was mine from day one. Danielle, the HR manager, barely looked up when I walked in. Her office smelled like vanilla protein powder and corporate apathy. I laid the folder down. "We need to talk." She offered me a brittle smile, like someone who knew she was about to feed me to wolves but still wanted to seem polite about it. "Of course, Lauren. What's on your mind?" I slid the paperwork across her desk like a poker hand full of middle fingers. "I want to formally dispute my commission allocation. There's documentation in here that proves I originated the West Grove account, handled every client meeting, wrote the proposal, and managed the timeline." Thomas didn't even join the email thread until 3 weeks in. She didn't even open it. Just folded her hands and gave me that HR voice, the one that's soft and slow like you're a bomb she's trying to disarm. "I understand your frustration, but like we mentioned before, commission structures are determined at the discretion of senior leadership. Once submitted and approved, they're final." I leaned forward. "Even when they're fraudulent?" Her eyes flicked. "Just for a second, Lauren, I would advise against making accusations like that. It could reflect poorly on your position here." There it was, not even subtle. I'd gone from top performer to liability in under 2 weeks. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm saying," she replied smoothly, "that escalating internal issues externally can have unintended consequences. For everyone involved." I left her office without the folder, but I kept copies. And I started keeping more. Every Slack message, every version history on Google Docs, screenshots of CRM updates, timestamps, calendar events. I became a digital hoarder of evidence. If they wanted to gaslight me, I'd gaslight-proof the whole damn office. Then came the surprise call from Marcus, former finance analyst, left last quarter for a startup. We used to share bitter coffee and inside jokes about expense reports shaped like pyramid schemes. He called from a blocked number. "Hey, don't say my name too loud. I shouldn't even be calling you." "Then why are you?" "Because I heard what they pulled. And I thought you should know the commission logs for Q1, they've been touched." Heavily, I froze, touched, modified. "You didn't hear this from me, but someone backdated approvals, changed tier structures, rerouted payment distributions. Look at the audit trail if you still have access." "I don't." He cursed. "Then get someone who does. You're not crazy. They buried your numbers under a fake team allocation." I hung up and stared out the window of the conference room like it might show me a better version of reality. One where I still believed in loyalty. One where I wasn't being erased in real time by the same people who used to toast my success with happy hour shots and phony compliments. I turned to the one person I still trusted, Kelsey. My work best friend, lunch buddy, venting partner. She was the one who helped me rehearse my first West Grove pitch. The one who once brought me a heating pad when I pulled something cold calling from my car. I messaged her, "Hey, need to talk, something seriously wrong." No reply. An hour passed, then two. I walked to her desk. Empty, chair pushed in. Succulent gone. Someone said she was working from home that day, but I knew better. She wasn't avoiding the office. She was avoiding me. Later that afternoon, I checked Slack again. She'd left the Lauren and Kel's Laptofire channel. No goodbye, just gone. That's when it clicked. She'd picked her side, and it wasn't mine. My world was folding in like a bad pop-up tent. Friends vanished. HR turned snake. My ex was promoted to strategic partnerships lead and walked around like he hadn't just publicly humiliated and professionally kneecapped me. But for the first time, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I got quiet. And quiet Lauren? She's the one you should fear. They gave my leads to a guy who once asked if B2B meant back-to-back. The next sales cycle opened, and I was assigned exactly 0 new accounts. My dashboard looked like a desert, blank, scorched, lifeless. The few inbound scraps I got were legacy accounts that hadn't bought software since the Bush administration. One lead had a disconnected number. Another had been flagged do not contact since 2018 due to a restraining order involving a former intern and a company van. I brought it up in our one-on-one. "Hey, not sure what's going on with the lead allocation. I've been cold calling retirees and defunct LLCs all week." Thomas, now with a fresh title and a smug little espresso habit, didn't even bother to pretend. "Yeah, leadership felt like it was time to give others a shot. Spread the wins around. You've had a strong run. This is about team building, team building." They were dismantling my career and calling it collaboration. Meanwhile, he was everywhere, holding court at meetings, smirking through Zoom calls like he hadn't just professionally mugged me in broad daylight. And always, always with her, the intern-turned-junior strategist, Madison, 22, freshly certified in HubSpot and hot yoga. She now had a corner desk and a passcode to the executive floor kitchen. They made a show of it too, sharing AirPods in meetings, whispering across cubicles, accidentally uploading the same document twice, each with the other's initials in the file name. Subtle as a chainsaw. The whispers started next, that I was emotional, that I'd been lashing out, that I was jealous. I walked into the break room one afternoon and 2 sales reps stopped talking mid-sentence. One of them coughed. The other stared into the toaster like it was showing stock prices. "You okay, Lauren?" One of them asked, voice loaded with fake sympathy. "Never better," I said. just waiting for the toaster to drop a subpoena. They laughed nervously. I didn't. I could feel my reputation bleeding out, slow, quiet, ugly. Not a dramatic takedown, no screaming match or HR escort, just death by paper cuts. A Slack message ignored here, a project reassigned there. My calendar went from full to ghost town in 2 weeks flat. It was like being erased in slow motion. And the worst part? I started believing them. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I should have let it go. Maybe if I'd played nicer, smiled more, laughed at the right jokes, I wouldn't be here, watching the man who stole my commission twirl his chair like a game show host, while the girl who used to ask me how to set up her voicemail took my seat at the table. Then I opened my folder again, the one I'd kept, the receipts, the timestamps, the doctored reports, the Slack threads he didn't know I'd archived, and I realized something: they weren't winning. They were stalling. Stalling because they knew, stalling because they were afraid I'd figure it out. So that night, I did something I'd never done before. I stopped trying to fix it quietly. I opened my laptop and Googled employment attorney corporate retaliation. Found a firm with a nasty little reputation for ripping companies open like microwaved Hot Pockets. Sent the email, attached the files. Subject line, whistleblower inquiry, time sensitive. 3 days later, I was sitting in a polished downtown office with an attorney who'd once sued a pharmaceutical company for $58 million. She reviewed the folder, nodded once, and said, "They're going to regret this." I nodded back. Then I filed my EOC complaint, quietly, formally, thoroughly. No one knew, not HR, not Thomas, not Madison with her glitter pens and her fake LinkedIn quotes about hustle. But they would, oh they would. My apartment turned into a war bunker. Curtains drawn, laptop glowing like a confession booth, legal pads scattered across the floor like crime scene tags. I lived on black coffee and spite, ate cold leftovers with one hand, while the other scrolled through Slack history like it was sacred scripture. Every ping, every calendar invite, every spreadsheet version, I downloaded it all. I knew the architecture of that West Grove deal better than I knew my own tax returns. It had lived in my veins for 4 months, every client note scribbled at midnight, every follow-up call taken in my car between strategy meetings. The CRM timelines were gospel, and they were mine. The deeper I dug, the clearer the picture got. Week 1, I opened the prospect file. Week 2, first contact logged from my email with my phrasing, my tone. Week 3, discovery call booked and conducted by me. Week 4, Thomas magically joins the thread, starts tagging himself in updates like it's a group project he suddenly remembered was due. But the big prize came at 2:17 a.m. on a Tuesday. I'd been combing through archived Google Drive folders, deep, like 6th level of hell deep, and found an old approval form. One of those internal sign-offs that had to be submitted before a contract over $1M could get CFO review. It had my name on it, my initials, but I never signed it. My gut knew before my brain did. The formatting was wrong. The timestamp off. I always saved mine in 24-hour format. This one was in 12-hour with an AM/PM marker, and the font was Arial. I hate Arial. I pulled up my original submission template, then cross-referenced it with the doc in question. The file metadata didn't lie, created by Thomas Keller. Modified 2 minutes later. Device, Office MacBook, IP ending in .72, his workstation. Time, 11:04 p.m. Date, 2 days after I told him I'd submitted the form. And then came the kill shot. He hadn't just edited the doc. He'd taken my original draft, deleted the submission date, re-uploaded it to make it look like he had submitted it first with my initials typed in. I stared at the screen, rage surging up so hard my fingers went cold. This wasn't gray area backroom politics anymore. This was fraud. I emailed it to my attorney with the subject line, "Found IT." Her reply came 6 minutes later. One line, "Subpoena requests going in tomorrow morning. We'll want expense reports and building access logs next." So I pivoted, started pulling travel receipts from shared drives. Found one where Thomas billed a client dinner, under my project code, 2 days after the contract signed. No attendees listed. $326 for wine and appetizers at a place he once swore he'd never take me to because it wasn't worth the markup. I found calendar invites Madison had forwarded herself, even though she wasn't supposed to have access to those client calls. And buried in Slack's backend export? A thread from a private channel labeled Deal Rescue West Grove. The chat included Thomas, the VP of Sales, and Madison, discussing adjustments to contribution structure a full week before the commission allocations were finalized. One message from Thomas stood out: "We just need to paper this clean. I'll make sure she doesn't push back." My attorney printed that one and stapled it to the cover of the case file. I wasn't just building a retaliation claim anymore. I was curating a goddamn museum of their lies. I didn't speak to anyone at work if I didn't have to. I smiled when I passed them in the hall, nodded in meetings, clapped during department birthdays like nothing had changed. But behind the screen, I was sharpening every receipt like a blade. And I wasn't aiming to get even. I was aiming to detonate. They got served on a Wednesday, not metaphorically. Served as in, a real process server in a real press suit walked into reception with a manila envelope that might as well have been laced with C4. Word spread through the office like a gas leak. People poked their heads out of cubicles. Slack threads went dead silent. Someone in marketing asked if we were being audited. We weren't. They were being hunted. The next morning, HR summoned me like I was being offered tea and closure. The email came with 3 exclamation points and the subject line. Quick chat, smiling face with smiling eyes. Danielle greeted me with forced cheer and a folder too thin to be anything good. We'd really like to put all this behind us, Lauren, she said. We value you and want to get back to a place of trust. Then she slid the folder across the table like it contained reconciliation and not a corporate bribe soaked in condescension. Inside, a proposed settlement offer. 10 grand and an NDA. I let the silence hang in the air until it started to sweat. $10,000, I asked, blinking slowly. You stole a 6-figure commission and destroyed my reputation, and now you want me to disappear for the cost of a used Honda with hail damage? Danielle's smile twitched. It's a goodwill gesture. We're trying to avoid escalation. Too late, I said, standing. You'll be hearing from my attorney. She cleared her throat. Lauren, if you continue down this path, it could affect your future employment opportunities. Litigation becomes public record. I leaned in. Then I guess I'll be famous. I walked out with the folder unopened under my arm like a trophy. Past the front desk. Past the lunchroom where 2 interns were whispering. Past the sales floor where nobody made eye contact. Except Logan. He glanced up from his laptop and gave me a quick nod. I nodded back. By Friday, Thomas finally cracked. He came to my desk unannounced, sweat already blooming through his button-up like guilt had a dress code. He crouched next to my chair like we were still something. Like this was just another office spat we could whisper our way out of over Thai takeout and red wine. Can we talk? He asked. Voice low, I didn't look up. I don't think we have anything left to say. Lauren, come on. You're blowing this out of I'm in the middle of something, I said, typing nothing into an empty email window just to hear the keys click. He lingered a second longer, waiting for eye contact, for softness, for some old version of me to reach out and offer him grace. But she didn't live here anymore. He finally left, muttering something under his breath that I didn't bother decoding. I wasn't collecting his apologies, I was collecting verdicts. That afternoon, an email hit everyone's inbox from legal, a reminder about professional conduct and pending litigation protocol. Half the office knew exactly who it was about, the other half could guess. The next week, I started getting quiet nods. A post-it on my monitor that read, "You're not crazy." An anonymous tip about deleted CRM records. Smile from the receptionist who'd always looked scared to say my name. It wasn't a revolution, it was a slow thaw. People were realizing what I'd known for months. I wasn't the villain, I was the mirror, and they were finally starting to look. Trial date was set. I didn't gloat, didn't post, didn't warn anyone. I just circled the date on my kitchen calendar with a red Sharpie, poured a glass of wine, and watched the ink bleed into the paper like a countdown to judgment. Courtrooms are colder than you'd expect. Not just in temperature, though the AC was cranked high enough to freeze moral ambiguity, but in tone. Everything is quiet, measured, like grief with fluorescent lighting. I sat at the plaintiff's table in a blazer I couldn't afford 6 months ago, flanked by 2 attorneys who had the expressions of seasoned assassins and legal pads stacked like ammunition. Across from us sat the company's counsel, 3 suits who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else, flipping through printouts like they were praying for typos that could save them from ruin. Then there was Thomas. No blazer. Just a dress shirt with sleeves rolled up like he was still in some startup boardroom, pitching lies like Saw-S subscriptions. Madison sat behind him, lower lip trembling, clutching a purse like it might teleport her out of the room. The trial began. My lawyer didn't come to play. She opened with a timeline so precise it could have been carved in marble. Each email, each Slack ping, each CRM update laid out like tracks toward one conclusion. I was the engine, they were the leeches. She called me to the stand. I walked through the West Grove deal, how I scouted the lead, nurtured it, closed it. I explained the client relationship, the proposals, the call logs. The judge nodded. The jury scribbled. Thomas stared at the desk like it had answers he hadn't forged yet. Then came the receipts. The doctored approval form, with metadata proving Thomas had created it from my original file. The Slack threads from the secret deal rescue channel, where they plotted how to adjust contribution optics. The expense reports showing Thomas wined and dined on my project code while I was cold calling in the break room. The defense objected twice. Both overruled, and my attorney called the company's own audit director. That poor bastard looked like he'd rather fake his own death than be there. He took the stand with a slight tremor in his voice and confirmed everything. Yes, Lauren was the originating account executive. Yes, the initial deal logs were altered 2 days after submission. Yes, the access history showed Thomas, and only Thomas, editing the file directory at 11:04 p.m. on the date in question. Were any of those changes authorized? My lawyer asked. No, he said. And was this manipulation documented in any follow-up? No. Then she pulled the rug out from under their entire argument. She clicked her remote and up came a timeline graphic, red lines for edits, green for communications, yellow for the bonus restructure email chain. They all lined up, right after the deal closed. right before I got iced out. All after I was removed from the contributor list. The jury shifted. The judge adjusted his glasses. One of the defense lawyers put a hand to his temple like he was trying to rub the failure out of his skull. But it wasn't over. My lawyer called her final witness. Madison Quinn. The courtroom tilted. I could feel Thomas shift behind me. I didn't turn around. Madison stepped up in a gray blazer 2 sizes too big and eyes that had finally stopped looking at him like he was salvation. She was quiet, careful. But when asked directly if she'd witnessed efforts to exclude me from recognition on the Westgrove deal, she answered plainly, yes. And who initiated those efforts? Thomas Keller. He told me Lauren would get in the way of our momentum. Said she'd overplayed her hand. Did he ever indicate why she was being removed from the project? She paused. Then, he said she wouldn't fight back. That silence you hear in Move is when everything shifts. That happened. And then came the final nail, a printout of a Slack message from Thomas to the VP of sales. She won't sue. She's not built for it. I didn't flinch. I watched the jury lean forward like they already knew the answer but wanted to hear it out loud. My lawyer rested our case. The defense stammered through 2 hours of damage control, citing ambiguous policies and team-based structures, but it was smoke in a wind tunnel. When the judge finally called recess before deliberation, I stood in the hallway sipping water from a cone cup like it was champagne. Thomas wouldn't look at me. Madison walked by, eyes glassy, and said quietly, "I'm sorry." I nodded once, not out of forgiveness, just acknowledgement. She'd chosen the wrong side, but at least she came back to reality in time to light the match. They came back in under 90 minutes. That's how fast it was, how obvious. The jury foreman didn't even clear his throat before announcing the verdict. Unanimous in favor of the plaintiff. Triple damages. Legal fees covered. All to be drawn directly from the executive bonus pool. That line landed like thunder. The courtroom didn't cheer. This wasn't a movie. But I swear I heard a sharp exhale from the defense table. The kind that says, "We're cooked and we know it." Thomas looked like he'd swallowed battery acid. He didn't even stand when they read the number. 6 figures and then some. Enough to fund 5 Westgrove deals. Enough to make a CFO cry into his morning protein shake. The HR director stepped down 3 days later. Official announcement said she was pursuing new opportunities. Funny how new opportunities always show up the week after depositions and shredded credibility. A week after that, Thomas's name disappeared from the internal directory. No announcement. No farewell email, just gone like a stain scrubbed out of a shirt that never quite looks the same again. I didn't show up to the goodbye happy hour they pretended not to throw. Didn't send a text. Didn't ask where he went. I knew he'd bet on silence. Bet I'd keep my head down. Bet wrong. The payout cleared 2 weeks later. I stared at the wire transfer in my account like it was written in another language. I didn't spend it all. Not on a vacation or a new car or some Instagram therapy retreat. I took part of it and seeded a legal aid fund. Small at first. Focused. For women stuck in the same liminal hell I'd lived in, where HR gaslights and leadership whispers, and your job feels like a hostage negotiation with your own sanity. We launched the clinic 6 months later. I didn't put my name on the building, just a plaque that read, "For the ones they underestimated." The rest, I used to start fresh. Different city, new firm, not because I was hiding, but because I wanted to walk into a building where no one had a version of me they could weaponize. But sometimes I still watch. One morning over coffee in my quiet kitchen, I scrolled past a LinkedIn post that made me laugh out loud. There it was, a branded banner from Nextwell Solutions. Big headline, "Our commitment to ethical leadership, empowering women in tech," and the author? A junior comms manager who used to schedule my optional HR seminars. The post had likes, shares, comments about inspiration and accountability. One reply read, "This is why I'm proud to work here." I took a sip of my coffee. Bitter, perfect, didn't comment, didn't share, just smiled and kept scrolling. What really gets me about this story isn't just the betrayal. It's the discipline it took to stay calm, stay quiet, and hit back where it actually hurts. The bonus pool. This wasn't revenge, it was justice, processed and filed. It's a reminder that knowing the rules of the game is how you break the system that thought you'd never fight back. Big thanks for watching, you sneaky seniors. Subscribe to keep the coffee pot brewing revenge. Your ex-colleagues won't know what hit 'em.